everybody. I'm Kelly Springer with Dragon Elder Song. I'm so glad to be here with all of you.
And hi, I'm Barbara Worsley. I'm the East Coast Dragon Lady. And we have our first guest tonight on our podcast. Our friend, and I've been telling people, so Dina is a friend of both of ours. So Dina Fortune, and she's got her beautiful art with us. And we were just talking about it before we came on. So she's trying to match our background, but there's some dragons in there, right? So you've got a wonderful story about that. Yeah. So introduce yourself, Dina.
And you're muted, so unmute. Oops.
Yep.
There you go. Great.
Okay, thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm so grateful to be here with both of you. It's been like, hey. um, you both each hold a different amazing spots in my heart. And so my name is Dina Fortune. I go by solely Dina. Sometimes you'll find me on as light language Dina. And I am an intuitive artist, oracle, dragon channeler. I also work with divine feminine energy, Mother Sophia, many elementals, fairies, my higher self, and I basically channel light language, offer Akashic record channeling and meditations. And so I really just like to bring everything together, focusing on channeling and embodying the divine feminine expression. And so it looks different on every different day. And introducing myself is so fun because it's always like changing and morphing because I'm a dragon.
Yeah. Well, I know. I'm sure if we asked you on another day, you would be telling us something different.
Totally.
That's always
Totally.
good. Right. But that's good. Yeah. So
Mm.
yeah, but we know that, right? I mean, I think we're all the same. Like you meet us on another time or somewhere else, you're going to get a different version. But yeah, you've always like you're always doing fun things. And I remember that video of you. Whenever I think about it, you were on a trampoline and you'd gone in your sister's backyard. It was like, don't tell anybody, but I'm in my sister's backyard, and she was jumping up and down on a trampoline. That sort of sums you up, Gina.
It's so funny. It was really funny because it was like, in that period of time where I was down there, I was down there to go help with clearing out my mom's house. And there was some rearranging of plans where my sister wound up booking herself into a tennis match that she couldn't get herself out of. And I said, okay, well, I'll just have a little me time. So I was alone in the house, and my sister has this, really nice trampoline. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going in there. And then, you know me, I can't resist going live doing something like
With the phone in her hand, jumping up and
having a moment of joy. And I had my sister's dog who I love with. We have like a soul connection.
down.
And I speak light language to this dog all the time. And she's like out there like playing with me as I'm jumping. And anyway, so it was funny because I was trying to promote something, and I thought, how much fun would it be if I would have just like filmed myself jumping on a trampoline while talking about
But yes, that's fun.
it was fun.
It's so fun. It's so very playful and fun. We were just we were just thinking about sharing all of us about phoenixes. I recently changed my brand to from dragons to a phoenix and the tree of life, and both Barbara and I were having this calling recently to go beyond just talking about dragons, because dragons are very much a part of our journey, but they're not everything. And we all work with angels and masters and other beings. Um, and you had shown us a picture. I wanted you to share about that image of the phoenix that you had.
Yeah.
And tell
Oh
us
yeah,
about
check
that.
it out. And underneath here, it says unconditional love.
Aw, beautiful.
And and I just felt like at the time I painted this about 2 years ago, maybe. And then I actually gifted it to my mom.
Mhm.
And now I have it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you mind if I mention something personal about your mom?
Yeah, we can because she's a catalyst for so much.
Yeah, Dina's mom recently passed away, and she's in the journey of the first year with her mom being away. And we all know, for those of us who've lost family members, I know when I lost my mother, um, it was the first year is always the most intense, just getting used to that person not being around or with us. And wow, that's really cool. It's really interesting too, because when my mother passed, I actually reclaimed a drawing I had done that I gave my mother, like was from high school. It was of an etching that I did of an owl. And I have that owl in my room. It's here with me.
I love that. Well, yeah, it's really interesting to like see like my mom really cared for it and took care of it and treasured it. And
Yeah.
even going through all of her belongings, I found she saved every painting I gave her, every card I wrote to her, every letter. And it was just like,
Oh,
and to like find all of that and now I also have some jewelry that I had made her. I used to make jewelry for her and she loved I have so much jewelry. I don't even know what to do with it. I'm like, I don't know what to do with the jewelry. Some of it I wear, some of it I'm like, I don't know what to do with some of it, but some of it I wear and it's like it's wild, because she actually threw me a jewelry party at her house and all of her friends came and they bought jewelry for me. But yeah, like my mom has been she even showed up in that one of the classes with the temples, right? And she showed up there, and that was what Kelly, like within a month after my mom crossed over, and you even verified, confirmed to me that she was there. I was like, I was not making it up. I was like, so it's really wild. I like to be able to tell the stories of this in a way that's like, I'm it
mm.
doesn't have to be, it's not always depression. It's just an acknowledgement of it's bittersweetness of like,
Yeah, that other relationship you're just mentioning is interesting because our souls transition. They don't just go away, they move. And going into a new relationship with someone who's crossed over and you're able to actually find them in the higher dimensions to work with a connection with them, it's a new relationship dynamic between you and your mother. And oftentimes too, I find that souls, after they cross over with certain family members, sometimes they become guides or helpers to them. They come into their meditation frequently. They might visit you. Oftentimes you might find that when you need them, they're still there. So it's like, wow, think I've experienced that a lot with my own mother, for sure, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
the Phoenix, I love the Phoenix.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just gonna say this one last thing. About a year ago, I was visiting a store and talking to them about teaching painting, doing painting classes around dragons, and they're like, we have a lot of people here that would really like to paint phoenixes. And I'm like, all right, I'll get back to you on that. And this conversation is like feeling to me like this is this is a signal of let's paint some phoenixes now.
Mm. That'd be interesting. And as I was saying, I also discovered there's a woman in England who is actually doing, I've just found it, she's doing a series of free webinars to introduce people to phoenixes and what she's learned from them. So I think, like you said, Kelly and I had talked a couple of months ago, we're feeling like we move, there's more than just dragons. There's dragons and, or there's and something. And I was certainly being guided back. I kept hearing, go back to where you started, which was to connect the archangels with the dragons. So, and I'm hearing that from other people as well. It's like there are dragons, but they're there to help. You can bring in the dragons to do healing. You can bring in the dragons, but it's not just dragons.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too to realize and understand that elemental energies belong to everything in creation.
Right.
So I even in my coursework, you all know I talk about how, fairies have dragons. The angels have dragon connections, and so
Yeah.
does the divine. So the light and the idea of the divinity, the God source, also has a connection to the elemental kingdoms and has their own elemental energy. It's amazing. So I think there's so much room for us to broaden our consciousness around embracing what dragons are about and allow it to take us into these other realms and dimensions. And oddly enough, for me, when I started working on my new brand, I had no idea I was going to put a phoenix in it. It just kind of came about. And as I did it, I realized, oh my gosh, this is so me connected to my tribe. In the bird clan of the Cherokee people that I'm part of, that part of my roots and lineage, their symbol is a phoenix. The Cherokee people adopted an image of a phoenix many years ago, and they started the Phoenix Press. And they have a phoenix as a symbol on a lot of their information. And I have this book. It's actually sitting here. I'm going to pull it out. It's going to wiggle the image here for me. Let me pull it out because my computer's sitting on it. But I keep this book under my computer as like medicine. And this is the phoenix symbol for the Cherokee Nation. And this is a book written in Cherokee. And what this is a hymn book. This is all like Christian hymns from a church, and the whole entire book is written in Cherokee, all the songs. And so I keep this hymn book from the Cherokee people right here at my desk. It's part of my inspiration. And the
I
Cherokee people, for them, it's like the resurrection of themselves. When colonial times were really hitting hard and they were losing their identities, their ability to know themselves as a tribe, to be, and when the Indian Removal Act and the Trail of Tears happened, our people were being oppressed. And their symbol for the phoenix was about a promise to themselves to rise up out of that oppression, to make it out, to win over oppression.
I
Hmm.
love that. That's really powerful.
Yeah.
What is there was something I was gonna say about like you were mentioning the phoenix and like a transition, and there's a correlation between, the dragon and the phoenix, and I think it's so interesting how all three of us have been having a similar feeling about a shift, and we were talking about this. And, I've been really directed to work with the dragons a lot. And at the same time, I feel like there's that, but what is the purpose of just focusing on the dragons? Like, why? Like, why just focus on the dragons? Because I think a lot of people, there's certain transformations that we're moving through. And yes, the dragons can assist us with that. But then some people really more resonate with the angelics. And some people more resonate with bees. And the other day, um, I was doing a painting. It was I was calling upon the aspect of me that's a bee shaman, okay? Because I became aware of this lifetime that I'm a bee shaman. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a painting to connect with the bee shaman. What do you think is in the middle of this painting very subtly? A
Mm.
dragon.
A bee's dragon.
It's a bee dragon. And but I feel like we're saying is like every angel has a dragon. Like for every angel there's a dragon, for every fairy there's a dragon, for every dragon there's a fairy, and I feel like they're all connected. It's just which presentation, what representation is going to resonate. And because some people don't yet resonate with the energy of the dragon, and it creates more fear because they haven't yet connected with the aspect and a representation of the dragon as a divine feminine, as a divine being of wisdom. That's why I feel like it's important to be able to work with exactly are we moving towards, what exactly are we assisting people to work through, and then which energy is best to facilitate that. And that's what came to me like in that phone call that we have with the Dragon Sisters. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's true though. I think a lot of us, I know for me, and this might be true for Barbara too, we've talked a little bit about what brought us into working with dragons. And a lot of it for us was what was being called for. A lot of people, because those of us who have had our own interaction with dragon spirits and the understanding of them have developed a relationship. And then when we meet people who it's new for and they don't really know where to take that or how to understand it, they're reaching out for somebody out there who knows about dragons to tell them anything. And I remember when I first met dragons, I was really all alone in the sea. I share that a lot, and how there was nobody around talking about dragons yet. Nobody was going, "Hey, I just saw a dragon in my meditation." Oh, me too. You hear a lot now, and because people are becoming more connected to them, and those people who are meeting dragon spirits are like, what is that about? They want to understand it. And because we have this diverse kind of mix of stories and myths and beliefs around what dragons are supposed to be or supposedly are. And that's everything from mythology to people basically making claims that there's no scientific proof that there are any dragons. And there's basically, those are just bears and tigers and, crocodiles that we're scared of. And so we've just turned them into dragons. There are people saying all kinds of things about what dragons are. But in my experience, dragons are the essence of the elemental kingdom, and they don't look like crocodiles or bears. They look like dragons, and they have a very specific appearance. And one of the other things is they're oftentimes seen very reptilian and scaly, whereas most of the dragons I see in the spiritual realms are soft. They're feathery. They're not scaly. They oftentimes have fur as well as feathers, so they can be, more like puppies. And oftentimes they're very dog-like in their joy around us, happy to see you kind of energy. And when I describe that to people, half the time they say, oh my gosh, that's what I experienced when I first met my dragon. It was just like, I'm so glad you're here. So there was always kind of fervent, like, what do I call that? Effervescent excitement that was coming from the dragon spirit towards the person they were connecting to or reconnecting to. So, I think a lot of us are searching for understanding, when we're trying to know what something's about and what does it mean. And I also believe, Dina, that there's this huge awakening with the dragons of the guardianship of the earth, the elemental kingdom of our planet that woke up. And in my storytelling about the awakening of dragons, that piece of it has everything to do with what's waking up in us. and the
Yeah.
fact that the elemental awareness is coming to life in us. And I think it's perfect that it's kind of wanting to go, ooh, what are dragons? Okay, and there's more. I think that's just our evolution with that awakening. It's like, so I think we're on track. We're on point. What do you think, Barbara?
You muted.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sorry, my dog was barking. I mean, I know that when I first met my dragons, they were in the sky, and like I didn't know anybody, and this was only a few years ago, but I didn't know any. I'd never heard people talk about dragons. I'd never been connected to dragons when I was a kid. I wasn't like somebody that said, "Oh, I love dragons," or "I've seen dragons." Nothing until these huge dragons appeared in the sky, and I was like taking pictures of them and going, am I really seeing dragons? And they were looping the loop and flying, and I'm like, why am I seeing dragons? And literally I got nothing, and I was like asking people who I should connect with, and they were like, well, try this person and try this person. People were like, no. I mean, I'm talking about people that were doing galactic stuff, and they were like, no, not dragons. And then they started talking to me, and I say everything I know now about dragons. I have learned from the dragons, because you really can't find, you can't, like, if you Google it, you'll go to a video game or some Chinese, but you don't get what we're looking for, right? And I've come across a few books that do have the history, but I think for me, they came to me because it was that next step for me, and they sort of helped me with that next step. And I always tell people that my dragons are very heart centered. They're not fighting dragons. I mean, I've met people that tell me that they go out into the ethers and fight with their dragons. And I'm like, well, they're not my dragons. And I'm like, I don't do, but there are people that believe that they've got to go out and fight evil with their dragons. And I'm like, they're not my dragons. My dragons have got huge hearts. They're funny, and as I always tell people, that they tell me almost like knock knock jokes, and sometimes they're like whisper in my ear something funny, because well, they remind me of my kids. Bringing up two boys, well, you know this as well. The sort of toilet humor they have, but they just like roll around laughing because they told a joke or they pick something up. It's but that's but they've actually sort of been a guide for me, and I find that other people, and the story behind when I work with collectives, because for the longest time I kept going, why don't I have a personal dragon? Why don't I meet my dragons? And it wasn't, I did eventually meet them, and they were like, well, that's because we're here in inner earth, and we're doing work here, and we go out into the galaxies, but this is where we are. But they told me that I didn't necessarily need to have personal dragons because I work with collectives. So once I figured that out, I was okay.
I think spiritually too, that's interesting what you brought up about how, you know, um, there's a whole shadow side to how some people see the dragons through
Dragons, yeah.
underworld or underworld energies, or even connected to dark side. And the dragon elementals, when they first came to me, told me that they were the dragons of ascension and light. They claimed their position as light beings and partnered with the divine mother and creator, and that they were at an ascended level of consciousness with what they were coming to communicate to me and work with me on. And
Mhm.
and it was our partnership in that was really what brought them to me. Was, I was working on what I'm still working on, which is supporting people to come into their own greaterness, to be whole and to know your inner spark and have that understanding about who you really are as a soul. So empowering people to know themselves in their own divinity. And that is what most people who are focusing on any kind of healing work are oftentimes inadvertently, that's what we're all doing with people, is bringing people to their greater self-trust, their greater confidence in who they are, their greater feeling of, you're not in the way, so I know you got me. And I think it's really cool, Dina. in my experience with you, Dina, I just want to get back to your art and your creativity a little bit in our conversation here, because I think there's an incredible power in being a person who is working with the spiritual elements of nature and of life, and then can bring that through visually. And I had a powerful experience with you that I can share about that was really amazing. I had taken off to do some group healing with some women that I work with. And I told you I was going to do this thing with this group, but nothing else. And while I was in that group, you painted it. You painted all the energetics of what we were doing and what we were saying in our prayers. It's like it was like watching our prayer come to life on your canvas. And I haven't forgotten that. It was really powerful. And so, do you want to speak a little bit about what the dragons and the spirits have been doing for you around the way in which you bring art to life? I'd love to hear some more about that from you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Glad you brought that up. Yeah, that was such a magical, expansive experience because I already knew that I had this canvas waiting and I didn't know what I was gonna paint. Like I'd mentioned earlier, I had just received this whale and dolphin activation. I was being guided to like channel this water energy, Mother Sophia energy, and I've been really working on this being in surrender and allowing the dragon energy to move through me, allowing the mother Sophia and the divine feminine energy to move through me, and allowing my emotions just like kind of just be like a dance, right? And they're like, no, Gina, you invited me to tap in, and I was just like, okay. I don't know what this is gonna look like, but like I knew I wanted to paint that day, and I felt so honored that you invited me to tap into the energy of the ceremony. And then I went to Michael's because there was something I needed to get. And when I left Michael's, I looked up on my way into Michael's or on the way out. I looked up at the sky, and I just took a picture of the sky where the sun was, and it was really interesting. And because it had this like interesting blue glow. And I came home and then I set the intention to connect with the ceremony, to connect with you, to connect with Mother Sophia, to connect with the dragons, to connect with Mother Water and the dolphins and the whale, and to just bring through what was meant to come through on this canvas. And I just put on some music and I did some singing of light language, and I just really just like lost myself in it. Like I actually can remember it now. Like it was just so like fluid and joyful and fun and freeing, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just letting go. Like it was a complete experience of surrender, and I feel like that's a lot of really what I'm doing when I'm doing these paintings, I'm channeling, I'm really just somewhere in me, whether consciously or unconsciously, knows what I'm doing. And sometimes I know, and sometimes I don't know. And most of the time, I'm just dancing, singing light language, and painting all at the same time. So when I got to a point where, like, okay, gotta stop, and then I sent it to you, and then you shared with me. I was like really blown away because I never done that before, like tapped into a ceremony that I knew nothing other than there was a ceremony at this time.
And the blue energy was so perfect because when I think about the new earth and what that is, to me, it's the evolving Gaia, and new earth to me is a creation field, and creation is blue. When I radiate or think about the color, the ray of what creation is, It's the Blu-ray. And when you took a picture that day, you took a photograph of the sun and it was blue. It was
Yeah.
a blue sun. And I remember thinking, "Well, it was so perfect," because we were working with New Earth and we were working with the prayers of healing for the planet and getting the whole human family to a place of greater harmony. And what we want for our newness, the idea of what's new is unity. We want to be able to unify in our consciousness, even in our differences. And it's really important to say this: unity, being unified in consciousness, doesn't mean we agree. It means that we agree to be kind and loving, even in our differences. We agree to be respectful. We agree to be honoring. We agree to be present and right here with each other in our hearts together. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we see everything the same way or that we have the same opinions about things. I mean, the idea, and I think sometimes this really trips people up. But I remember seeing your painting and I was absolutely stunned at how there were very specific details in your painting that were pertinent to what we had been doing in the prayers and what we were activating and what we were seeing. And the way you painted it, it was perfect. It was like, it's wow. And then you worked on it some more later and it got even more beautiful. And I was just like, wow, I was really touched by how in touch you were with our hearts just by tapping in. And I believe the intuitive power of us is what I call our soul of knowing, is like a library. Barbara's like a vault.
Yeah, yeah. And if can I just say that if I were to try to draw a dragon, I cannot. Like the dragons draw themselves through me. And I have learned that I like that was the first lesson that they told me when they were initiating me to paint and be like I don't remember the word, but it was like this initiation, and I have an initiation painting in the other room. But it was like, do not try to draw us, do not try to paint us. Just let go, surrender, anchor the energies. And I really do feel like it's the dragon part of me that is painting. It's not like Dina me. And I wanted to share this one with you guys
Oh, wow. Yeah.
because this is a drawing and
Beautiful.
like a drawing and I wasn't really trying to draw the dragons. I just like they
Yep.
just kind of emerge. And I mean, I set the intention like I'd like to draw a dragon, but like as you see, this one doesn't really look like a dragon. It looks more like a turtle head without the turtle
I
shell.
do.
But
No,
I don't
I've
know
seen
the
I've seen other people that draw dragons and they look like that.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah,
how.
They almost look sort of like dinosaur heads.
dinosaur
And
head.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
something that I sometimes think about too, is that a lot of the things that we call dinosaurs, bone-wise, could be
like
actually part
dragons.
of the elementals.
Yeah,
And I also think that they come in all different shapes and sizes like that. And some of
yeah,
them have like the horse head, like
right.
the image behind us has more like a horse head.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
And then this one, there's multiple. There's this
yeah.
one and this
Oh, they're really
Yeah,
very, yeah,
one.
great
There's like
painting.
all different ones, like
yeah.
different. And I wasn't even, and that's the funny thing about it. Those dragons emerged. Like I
Yeah.
was just moving the energy,
Mm-hmm.
and
Great.
and I was, oh my God, there's a dragon. And then I would like start, going in with the detail. But
Uh-huh.
it's fun, But when I first started painting with the dragons, I had met this friend, which is how I kind of eventually led me to meeting Barbara, actually,
Mm,
because I just want to honor time and not get too long into this. But when I first saw the dragon in the sky, I like within a month was asking a friend of mine if she knew any friends, if she had any friends that were dragon channelers. And on my way home from a guided meditation, breathwork event, I got introduced to her, and that woman, Brandy, had this group, and then from that group, I met Ryan, and then Ryan somehow knew Barbara, right? And then somehow I met Barbara. I met Barbara because of Dragon Thunder,
mm,
and but she was the only other person that I met at the time that also like her first, connection with the dragons was like seeing them in the clouds. And I was like, oh, like
mm.
that's so amazing because I was like, oh my God, there's a giant dragon in the sky. And I am amazed that I even made it to work safely that day because I was like, but anyway, but it's funny how I feel that the dragons or our dragon aspects are bringing us together and like linking up the human the humans with the dragon connection with each other at the divine time,
Mhm.
so that we are feeling supported and we can build these communities where we can really
Yeah,
be ourselves and authentic and you
Mm,
know
yeah.
yeah.
I also wanted to remind you, Dina, as well, that when after we met, I took a couple of your classes, and from that, um, I started channeling paintings when I was taking when we were taking Kelly's class, temples. And I remember one of them that I did. And like you said, I don't remember. I knew that I'd seen that doorway, and it had
Mm,
writing around it, which was light language, but I didn't know that at the time. And then you said, wow, that looks like a professional, like some professionals. And I'm like, that's what I was channeled, right? And I found since then, since whatever got activated, I've done quite a few, sometimes abstract, but some are very, like I've painted my ancestors. I got into hats and umbrellas, whatever that means. But these were all just came to me on different journeys.
mhm,
Um, so it's amazing. Like we all meet for a reason as well. And like I, even though my light language was activated, I don't speak it, but I write it. And then I've met other people that have started to, they're saying, well, I don't speak it, but I've been doing, what are these? And I just shared this last night as well that, a lot of people say, oh, I write light language. I don't know what it is. So I said, well, I'm going to ask my dragons. And they were like, oh, we'll tell you what it is.
mm.
So I can write light language on this side and they interpret it on this side.
I love that. I do that too, by the way.
Yeah.
I I write the codes on one side and then I get the like a translation on the right side. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I
Yeah.
actually thank you for a reminder about that because I haven't been doing those events in a while and I'm kind of feeling guided to return to that maybe perhaps.
Well, because I think it allows people to be creative, but not with structure, right? So it wasn't like sit down and we'll teach you how to, you know,
Umbrella.
draw a ball,
Yeah.
and get it to move. I mean, that's how I took like, formal drawing lessons. Like this is a circle, this is a triangle, that sort of thing. But I think it opened the space up for people, and you attract the people that want to do it, right? Um, and then it's like, wow, who would have? And it's almost like giving people permission to not do the everything is going to have a line and I can just put it down there and like, oh, look what popped out, right? And I mean, look at the number of people that, we've done a couple of sessions where we've invited people to come and they've bought your art because
And
you've channeled it and they're like, oh, that's my piece. And it's not like they go, how much is it, Dina? They go, I have to have that. So there's definitely that connection that people feel. And you've only just started recently saying, oh, I hadn't thought that I channel the painting, but I can channel the message for people. So that's been really neat to see you do something that you hadn't realized that you were doing. And then to see people light up. I mean, and I'd met, Tina, I know, was bought from you. I mean, I met her through something else, and she'd been coming, and she was like, oh my God, I have to have that. I have to have, and it was like no other question. I have to have that. That's mine.
I know. I
Yeah,
feel so grateful that I got the idea, the download to do the channeling, and that when I do step forward and do it, it actually is like, oh, okay, people really do like this. Okay.
right. Yeah. And again, you're talking about connection. I mean, we invited V, V to join us. And I think we did, was one person or two people that didn't come, but one of them was a friend of yours that we all channeled a message at the end, your male friend.
Oh,
Um,
Bernie.
Bernie, yeah. And this guy was blown away at how accurate we all were because we all channeled something differently and we were all spot on. And we didn't have a picture of this guy. We nothing. She just said, Bernie wants us to do a message for him. And he's got some gifts, I'm
Yeah,
guessing, because yeah.
yeah,
So, but it was just fascinating. And I think we've learned from that, right? We've
yeah.
learned and we've grown that it V can be doing her stuff and I can be using my Oracle deck or whatever one they have me running around pulling out. That was really funny when I'm like, oh, I've got these decks out and then I'm getting this guidance. No, go in the drawer and get out that other deck. And I'm like, but I've got all these decks. Like, no, go and get that one. But I think it was good for all of us. And the people that came, came back again. So
We got to do
yeah,
that again.
yes, yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things that the more we do it, people will start coming because they want to find out. Um,
I look forward to it. I really enjoy doing that. Like Barbara and I collaborate really well together. You're very easy to collaborate with.
well, I think because we've all got that, it's, whether it's dragons or whatever it is that brought us together. And, for me, it was, doing that first Dragon Thunder was how I met people here in the United States because they heard me speak and they were like, she's on the East Coast. And that's so Ryan contacted me, and then there were several guys that contacted me that were doing Dragon Reiki. And I was fascinated by the fact that there were two or three guys that connected with me that were doing different types of Dragon Reiki.
Interesting,
Yeah,
interesting. That's how I met Ryan
that's how you met.
because
And then, right,
he was in that circle
you
with
did,
Brandy. And
yeah,
he and I both took the Celtic Dragon, that same Reiki that you did.
yeah,
I did the same time as him. I just don't use it in the same way. I more will put the symbols in the paintings.
right, right.
And
And
actually,
I'm talking to more people that are telling me the same thing that they don't. It doesn't matter whether you've done formal Reiki or Dragon Reiki or whatever. There's a lot of people that don't use the symbols at all. I'm like, I can't ever remember them. And it's always been like more intuitive that I do it.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, yeah, so I've been surprised at the number of people that have told me, yeah, I don't symbols. I'm like, neither do I.
yeah, I mean, I feel like, I don't know what you think about this, Kelly, but I feel like just being in a flow of frequency
Yeah,
and being in the channel of like
of
not
the
having to
yeah,
get complicated with symbols
Yeah.
is it's like the symbols complicates things and takes us into our
go
heads.
back
And
into your head.
no
Yeah, yeah,
disrespect to anyone who does Reiki. I'm just saying, for me personally, I just and I just I didn't continue with it because I just like to just set the intention and allow the energies to flow
Mhm.
where they're meant to go in the person's body without having to think about a symbol.
Well, and
Yeah.
also those symbols came from somewhere.
Yeah.
So think about this. Everything's being brought down from heaven. So if it was divinely given to someone who then turned it into a thing and then taught it to you, and no judgment on the thing, just that's what was done. So it was divinely inspired. That's how it came to be taught to you. So
Right.
Yeah.
being a vessel for the divine is what we are talking about when we talk about being just in an open vessel, being
Right.
an open vessel for the divine to come through and to invite what wants to come as the messengers. So we become the messengers and we are our own messengers for ourselves, but we also become the messenger for other people and for whatever people are inquiring from you in those moments. You know,
Mm.
you're showing up as the vessels and as divine
Mm.
messengers, and you're just
Yeah.
listening. And so deep listening to me is the most crucial part of it, which is and part of that is you all learning to say yes to yourselves. It's like, okay,
Right.
yeah, I can show up being this. Okay,
Hmm.
yeah, I can believe this is very real for me. And what I am hearing is this. And when you learn how to trust the voice of the divine and
Yeah.
the energies that are showing themselves to you, didn't you both find that it got like it just makes it feel good when it resonates, it meets something that's meaningful with
Yeah.
purpose, and when that purpose and meaning comes together, it just feels like you have this synergy and connectivity that
Mhm.
just feels alive with spirit. And that is always to me the blessing and the most wonderful moment when we're finding resonance and we're finding that deep connection. So, and
Yeah.
it's just
And
great.
I think for a lot of people, it was, you know, they were drawn to Reiki, but it was more that it opened them up
Mhm.
because, and I've said this before, I find a lot of people that have had direct connections with dragons started with Reiki or some sort of Reiki, and I think for them, and it certainly was for me, that I needed something like that to sort of give me permission to go, oh, I remember now, right? So it was a awakening and then remembering. And now all these years later, when I look back at some of the other things I took, I'm like, well, I was only just waking up to
Yeah.
like a lifetime or a, but at the time I didn't know that. And it's taken all these years. I keep saying it's taken me all these years to get here and go, oh, yeah. So I'm waking up to just things that I already know. We know it, it's in us, we're just waking up to it. The same as our dragons. We've
Remembering.
worked with them, we've either lived with them, we've either been them,
Yeah.
there's all those things. And I think that's why they've come to help again with ascension. But they came because we needed them and they felt they needed to be here on earth right now. And that's why there have been so many dragons coming and so many people saying, why am I suddenly seeing dragons? Because we need them for some reason and they love to be here to help.
Yeah.
I
I
love.
think that reason is directly connected to what we were just speaking of too.
Speaking about, yeah,
That power you're talking about of knowing, that
yeah,
intuitive awakening, that place of getting to the yes with yourself.
yeah,
I think that's exactly what dragons are waking up in us for, is to give us
yeah,
greater confidence, to help us trust ourselves more, to guide us, to be able to look at things differently, and oftentimes to be a lot more simple and loving about it. I believe
yeah,
that the element of the dragons of light and ascension that are here waking us up are giving us a lot more positive energy than sometimes we've allowed ourselves to even have thinking about ourselves. Oftentimes dragons are like cheerleaders for us. They're like, they're like, how many times, Barbara and Dina, have your dragons told you something really positive about you that you just were like not exactly ready to say yes to yet yourself, but
yeah,
to get to? Did that
yeah.
happen to you all? Because that happened
Oh
with
yeah,
me, with dragons a
yeah,
lot over the
yeah,
years. They would tell me things all the time, like, Kelly, you're a good storyteller, and you're highly intuitive. You should just trust that, And it took me a long time to feel like I could come out in the world and go, I'm an intuitive healer, artist, musician, and storyteller. And for the longest time, I was like, oh, I'm a spiritual counselor. And I wouldn't want to say anything else.
I relate.
Finally got to a place of feeling like, I'm not going along with the quid pro quo, I find your marketing niche, and the whole thing about sharing your gifts with the world for me it became real clear, traveling through the cycle of a year with dragons, that my different gifts would plug in at different times of the year. And like I would wind up
Mm.
doing like storytelling work and all this stuff in the springtime with children at the Waldorf schools locally. And I wound up becoming a chief storyteller for like 8 years for the whole entire state for all the kids for their fourth grade Indigenous Studies program. And it was like, I never in a million years would have seen myself doing that, but because it was like, well, this is a perfect way to, be initiated as an elder. And I was turning 50 at the moment that that happened. So it was like the timing of the things that were happening in my life, and the nudge from the dragons was like, go girl, go. And I was like, I was always a lot more resistant. Weren't you all? Did you find you were resistant to your own gifts and your own trust in yourself? You had to get there, right? And to get to
Yeah,
the place of saying
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Barbara, did you want to?
No, I was just going to say, I think that, and sometimes I'm still sort of like not there. So sometimes you're like, yes.
Still
And then
doing,
it's like,
yeah,
right. But that's sort of part of being here, right, on Earth. I mean, that's
yeah.
and as I always seem to have these conversations. Like I was with a friend that I've known for many, many years, and we met doing, um, Reiki, no, polarity. And we lived in the same town. We had kids, and we kept showing up. Like we'd see each other, and then we wouldn't, and then we'd show up at classes, and we'd be like, "Wow, we seem to be taking the same classes all the time." And then we realized that we probably have something going way back, and now I met her the other day for coffee, and she was a retired nurse, and she's got a husband, and they've been traveling, and she's like, I just envy you, and I'm envying her being able to travel, and she envies me that I've gone on, like, so we came to a point where we both stopped doing sort of energy work and stuff, but she envies the fact that I've continued, and I'm
Mm,
going, oh, but I'd love to travel.
it's
So,
so funny
but it,
We
you know,
how,
always
it's
want
the
what we
same.
don't have.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
no,
it's so interesting, because I totally resonate with that. Because like my sister, like she has the financial ability to not have to work, and yet I don't want to speak for her. Let's just say we each have things, that like, like that would be really great if I could have that, And so it's just really interesting. But there was something else I wanted to say because I noticed that in myself, like sometimes I see other people that seem to have their shit together more, and then I'm like, I'm like, am I really like, what am I doing? Do I really know, like, because I do Akashic record readings, and and a lot of the things that I like with the Akashic record readings, like I had a friend that did the initial showing me how to access Akashic records, using a prayer. And we would practice for like 2 years, every so month or so, we would get on the phone and we would do readings for each other. And as the dragons came into my life, I then had a dragon that actually was like, I am here
Akashic
to
record.
assist you with the Akashic records. So I started to buy this book and that book, saying maybe I'll look into that person's modality and that person's modality. But I bought the books, I did nothing with them.
Mhm.
And I have a dragon that I work with the several dragons that I feel like I work with the Akashic records. And I have like my own way of guiding people through and you've had that, you've experienced that, I
Yes,
think, Barbara.
yes, yeah,
But nobody could have taught me that except for the dragons.
right, yeah. So
And I,
I've, yeah, so I've I literally just, so I took Casca Graham's
Yeah.
3-day Akashic record and dragon medicine. Hugely powerful, but like literally, well, she's bringing a book out. So if you want
Oh,
another
nice.
book, she's bringing a book out about her method of. But it was again, I met my Akashic record dragon, and as I've said, I don't like. I really don't have that many. I mean, I have a couple of guardian dragons, but I don't have that many. I know this one and this one, but my Akashic dragon was is actually a yellow gold feathered dragon that riz out, that literally came out of this pool of water. Huge dragon, and he gave me his name, which is French, which because I kept hearing between the valleys, and the name he gave me was the translation of between the valleys, and
Mm,
I'm like, oh my god, that you can't make that stuff up, right?
I love that.
And but I think and I think different people read Akashic records different ways. They're all right. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, and I think I just, I think for me what it was is like I grapple sometimes between the fact that, yes, it would be nice to learn from someone else, that maybe there's something I can learn from, like, say, Casca or someone else.
Yeah,
Because I don't, there's that, like, certification, like, anyway. But so I think that's been a hurdle for me,
right.
uh, of developing my Akashic record reading style and trusting myself, trusting my dragons, trusting my inner knowing, trusting that whatever is coming through and however I'm taking them through this Akashic journey, that is exactly what it is meant to be. And if I want to go learn from someone else, I can, but I don't
Yeah,
have to.
right,
And so, but it's like that coming to owning that, like, I have my own way. There are going to be people that want that, and there are going to be people that want to go to someone else.
right.
Anyway,
Exactly.
so,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's been that journey of, like, that's how I feel like they've been really showing up for me, is like showing me
Yeah.
how
Well, I
powerful.
think, yeah, I mean, for me, it was more about I kept getting these messages about I needed to do more work with soul, with my soul, other people's soul, getting like releasing. I mean, so I was getting all this like messages, but I didn't know what they meant. And I kept going, oh, okay, I'll work with the dragons. And then, but it was more, it was about the soul, learn to get, release what's holding people back. And then I was like, oh, and then Casca came on my show, and I took a class with her, and she was doing like the next class she was doing. She goes, "Well, I'm doing the Akashic records," and I was like, "Oh, that's what I need." So I do this all the time. Like I don't, if I think about it, I'm like, I'm not going to do it. But when I have to do something, there's usually a reason, and I just didn't think about it. I'm like, I have to do that, and I will take time off work, and I will do this because, and then when I was learning it, I'm like, oh, that's why I was getting those messages. So I sort of knew some of it. And there's also people there that do Akashic record reading, but they come because there's different things happening. And as she brings in more stuff, she's updating people with what she's seeing. So but I
Nice.
think her book will be interesting because it
Okay.
will lay out her program.
Mhm.
Well, I
So
also don't want to just go to anyone. Like, I want to go to someone that I know is, like, highly recommended, and like we
yeah.
resonate, because, like, that's how I found you, Kelly. Like, I found you, because no, I didn't find you. I was recommended to you by Barbara. Okay.
So here we
And
go. We're completing the circle.
we're
Okay.
completing the circle, because, like, that was such a beautiful thing, because Barbara and I were talking, she mentioned you, and then I was gonna reach out to you anyway, where I started reaching out to you, and then we both wound up being part of that dragon talk on that Sunday, and you weren't originally gonna be on that dragon talk because you were, like, moving, and then all of a sudden you were able to be on it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
like, this is we get to like, yay, we get to meet. But like, it was so like, whoop, like, whoa, okay, you really need to meet Kelly, and this is how it's happening. And now
I
here we are,
remember.
like a
Yeah.
year
That
or
was on
so later.
Kevin's, was that
Mhm.
Kevin's podcast, Dragon Talk, that he was doing?
Yeah,
Yes, yes, I remember that. Yes.
Mhm.
I just think, and now here we all are here in this, and you guys are
All
like,
together.
Together. But it's again, it's that connecting. Like I said, it's like it out of one thing comes these other things, and then we meet people for whatever reason, right? And we get connected.
Intuition
Yeah.
is,
yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
you
It's
know,
beautiful.
Yeah.
the way the
I'm so
divine works. It's like the divine plan is always 10 or 20 steps ahead of us. And I
Right.
think it's funny too how, you get insights and you have experiences, and then years later you can see, you can pull that out, and see, wow. I
Yeah.
mean, I find that even with art sometimes. Like when I'm
Yeah.
creating, I had started a painting once, and I had started this painting and it sat, one quarter of it painted and nothing for years, dragging this canvas around with this like heart painted on it and nothing else. And then one day, spirit was like, you've got to paint that and you've got to finish it now. And I sat down and just started painting, and I finished that painting that day. And it was
Wow.
like, have to get it done. And the energy of it was amazing because it transformed and became something and birthed, and I was creating something that I needed, and it was totally for me. And I later showed it to my students, and they were all like, "Oh, Kelly, that's your self portrait. That's you." And I was like, I painted myself. I had to paint myself, but it was really interesting. It was this light language painting with me with like a really kind of indigenous face but with wings, and they were golden, and it was really different. It was like, wow, butterfly
Yeah.
woman, girl maker. So
Oh
Yeah.
my God, we could talk forever. That is so amazing. But I know that feeling of like you start on one day and then all of a sudden you gotta like do it and it's like gotta be done like that day. And it's like, and a lot of my paintings in 2019 uh into 2020 where turned out to be self-portraits of different aspects of me from
oh,
different versions
Mm.
of me from different versions of my higher self.
mm-hmm, mm,
Like, and even more recently, like I have this one right here.
mm.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we see it. It almost
Yeah.
uh,
looks like a deer person.
yeah, it's kind of like an elven.
Elvin, I almost see deer eyes when I look at it, and like
Really? Oh,
ear
that's
nose.
really. I have a
And
dragonfly over
like
here.
the way you have ears and the way the lines go, almost feels like antlers going up
Yes,
or
it
gonna
does look
go
like
up.
yes, it does.
There's a
Yeah.
Oh,
feeling of deer to it. It has a deer feeling to it. It doesn't necessarily look like a deer with
get a
looks,
different
but it's got
feeling.
this
It's a
flavor.
galactic being here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Galactic. Yeah.
Wow. Cool.
Hmm.
But the point was that I started painting all these paintings that I didn't know until one day one of my friends who's also an intuitive was like, well, two separate friends were like, Dina, I see all your higher self paintings and I want you to do one for me. And I'm like,
Hmm.
huh? They're like, yeah, Dina, painting your higher self. And I'm like,
Yeah.
ah.
Oh.
And then so I started painting, doing portraits of different, actually I wrote here, it's galactic dose.
No.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks. Um, but yeah, thanks. Okay.
That's awesome.
Um,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. I love it. I love it. I
I
think,
love.
the way we get called to certain people, certain things, certain classes, certain, you know, asks that get asked of us, it's that synergy I was just talking about with the divine, the way the divine
Yeah.
plan is always way ahead of us.
Right.
Yeah, oh my God,
Trust,
so much
trust the
so.
divine. Trust the divine is taking you to where you need to go, what you need to be learning, what you need to be getting
Yeah.
given to you, what you need to be realizing, what it is you're waking up, what it is you're healing, what it is you're sharing, all of that,
Mhm.
because we're always at play with life, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
life is playing all around us.
Yeah.
So, do you
Yeah.
have anything coming up right now, Dina, that you would like to share about or tell
Oh,
people how
yes,
they can get a
thank
hold of you?
you. Yeah,
Share about
thank you. Okay,
your
so,
your web
huh?
share about your website and how people can find you as well.
Well, I mean, I have a link tree right now. I haven't yet finished working on a website, an actual website yet, but that's 2025.
Find you
Not sooner. Huh?
People can find you on Facebook.
Yeah, people can find me. Thank you. People can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and across all of them, Solly Dina, SOULYDINA. And I'm co-collaborating, co-curating an art show that's near me locally at the Art Center of the Capital Region. And we're actually putting together an immersive art healing art experience that is bringing paintings that are all about the art of ceremony, art of surrender, art of community, and art of there's one more. I keep forgetting what it is, but it's we can go on and on and on. It's like the art of healing, surrender, community, and ceremony. Thank you. And so we're actually gonna have some live events. I'm gonna be channeling light language and
What
bringing
city,
together. And I want to
what city, what town, where is that
thank
located?
you, Troy, New York.
Mhm.
And the first night is December 4th. And I'll make sure if you go to my link tree or you go to my Facebook, you'll see the link for the art show. I'll have it quite labeled. And it's running from December 4th to December 20th. And on 12/12, we're doing an immersive sound healing art experience. So I'll be channeling light language. My friend will be doing tuning forks, and another friend will be doing sound bath in the art show in the gallery surrounded by our art.
Yeah.
So that's a really big deal to us, really excited about it. And then my intention from there is to continue offering the guided meditation with activations, with the art, and working on my YouTube channel and more, creative channelings with Barbara and opportunities where you can learn how to connect with your higher self through painting but basically follow me and you'll learn what I'm doing as I go because things are always evolving.
Well, when we do our show in our description, when we post it, I can put a link. So I'll get you to send me the link. And so any of you who want to know about this and see this right away, you can look for the information that Dina is sharing about here in the description and the YouTube post when we put it up as our podcast. You can find it in the description. So we'll put it in there. So
Yeah.
you
Oh, I almost forgot to mention, sorry, almost forgot to mention, I am also a published author and a published artist. And I actually have an Amazon account and I'm in the process of creating journals.
nice.
So,
Oh,
so there's
awesome.
journals that are going to come out, and I have some that I'm in, and there was one that was just released. So I can send you that link to my Amazon.
Oh,
Yeah. Oops.
I've got, if I get it, like, there we go.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
that's the dragon initiation
Yes.
painting. That one comes from my Fine Art America account.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
even got it. And I bought Tina's mug. She's got art
yes,
on
she
mugs.
has.
But Dina, you put your art on a shower curtain as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my in my fine art okay, so yeah, so I have a site in my art site, thank you. Fine Art America. It's fineartamerica.com. At least I forget.
Mhm.
Fineartamerica.com/Dina Ziskin Fortune. And I have quite a lot of my paintings up there. Not all of them, but probably 20, maybe up to 20. And each one, if you look at each one, you could scroll down and each painting could be purchased as a variety different ways. So you'll see like anything from prints to mugs to journals to duvet covers to shower curtains to phone chargers to there's so many options.
Yeah. You can have
Mhm.
a phone cover.
Yes, that's one of them too.
I have
That's actually one
I
of them.
I
Yeah.
did.
Yes.
So yeah, the Fine Art America, I have a page too. But I love that you do that. So that's another link you could send to us, and we can add
Yeah.
that those lists of the Amazon for your book. And so we'll have all of that in our description with your links.
Yeah.
And
Great.
we can share that
Yeah.
with everybody so that they can find you.
Mhm.
And I
That'd be
wish
awesome.
to invite everybody to come and play with Dina. If you feel called to have somebody who can really channel some amazing art for you, she's the person to go to. And check out her book and check out her creative offerings and enjoy her. She's wonderful. It's been wonderful to play with you. And thank you for being on our
Yeah.
podcast show. It's
Yeah.
been delightful to have you here today. Really
Yeah.
del
Great.
yes.
Yeah. It always is fun.
I'm so grateful. Thank you. This was so much fun. And I look forward to chatting with you ladies soon.
Yeah.
And love you both. Thank you so much. Thank
You're
you
so
everyone for watching.
Yes.
you,
Yeah.
everybody. And
Thank you.
Barbara and I, if we have other things that we're sharing about, we will post them in the links as well. I know I've
Yeah.
got a few things coming up. I'm doing an intensive thing for a 1-day symposium for women, to women supporting women. So I'll put something in there about that. And if Barbara has a class or any offerings, we'll put those in our description too, so you can find out about what we've got going on. So be back with us next month. We look forward to our next show with all of you, and bye.